So that brings us to, and let me just run this past. This is how I kind of see four, and these are all interrelated. It's not meant to be the whole answer, but just four general career progression paths, and then from there, they're all kind of interrelated with each other. And this is how, like, if I'm managing my career, I've kind of got to look at this. And if you're managing my career, from the company's perspective, probably some broad categories. So one is just depth of specialty capabilities. Like, I am absolutely the best at designing this type of system, or I am that, crazy, amazing pre-construction manager who can take a napkin sketch from a customer of a project and turn it into an 800 line item, very detailed cost model that they can go through there and build off of and do what if scenarios with. The building those capabilities takes decades to go build and takes constant practice. And so you're really staying in a very, pretty narrow scope, and you're moving up. And then that's one. And then there's like a versatility of capabilities path. And I know some people that have done that, and they've gone through, like, almost every critical role in the company. Like, if the company got down to three people left, they would be the one person that could run around and go do everything. And usually they've been there. They're very long tenured type of people that have been there, and they enjoy that. They may be really good at some of them, and others they are just good enough at. But that's an incredibly valuable skill set to have. That's an incredibly valuable person to have, because you can, they're a utility player. In sports they call it a utility player. You can move them in just about anywhere whenever you need to. There's people that get better and better at training and developing of others. I'm thinking about a friend of mine, Carl, and he's a good electrician. I learned a lot from him. He was an okay foreman, but he is a brilliant teacher. And he's been, finally he made, interestingly, hey, this gets to the last track. Interestingly, he wanted to move up the supervisor managerial, tract, and, manage projects and manage this and manage that. But it just wasn't satisfying for him. And then he, when he really backed up and looked at it, I'm so thrilled. And he decided to make the move and focused on teaching. And I don't, he's been teaching at the apprenticeship program, I want to say, for almost 20 years
Yeah.
now. And I can't even imagine how many, so what, that's 30 students a year graduating, so what, he's responsible for what's 30 times 20. So I'm not very, so, yeah, so he's probably had an impact on 500 people,
Yeah.
that's his impact. And he's gotten so much, brilliance, and developed brilliance in that training and developing of others. And then there's the, kind of supervisor management leadership. And there's a technical thing that you're managing. There's a scope of work, but you may be growing, in that. So you might have started out as a, field engineer or something, moved into the office and moved into a project management path. And now you're head of project management. So that's kind of moving up in that. And you're learning to manage projects more, but there's a point in which you transition from managing projects to managing the people in the process. And that's really, moving along that track. So I don't know, how do you end up seeing this? This was a slide that I just dumped in here for our discussion, and it was just how it was working in my brain at the time.
Well, first off, I agree. That kind of gray circle that wraps all around them. Um, all of these have to be in some ratio inside an organization. Otherwise, if you just have these leaders running around, but there's no one to do the rest of the work, then they have no one to lead, right?
Right.
You get the depth of specialty. People maybe head down and getting an awful lot done without a lot of direction as to where the organization's going, right? So when I look at this, I look at the first one, that depth of specialty capabilities is that deep professional development, right? When you look at the blue line, training and development of others, it is that deep understanding of what this person does, that high expertise person, right? We tell the story of the person who comes in with 30 years of experience. You hired them to fix this big machine that costs you, hundreds of thousands of dollars a day to have down. And they come out and they literally look at it for 5 minutes and fix it and hand you a bill for $50,000. And you're like, why am I paying this? Why am I paying $50,000 for 5 minutes of work? And it's like, no, you're paying $50,000 for the 30 years that it took to get to being able to diagnose this in 5 minutes, right? So it is that deep, deep expertise that is just fabulous in many organizations, because you can move forward with that, right? The versatility capabilities, I like to look at those people, at least the jobs I was on. Those Man, those were those punch list people. They were the super logistics, super organized, good communicators that could just kind of manage the puzzle pieces and inform the owner of how this was going to work, right? They were
Yeah.
just influential enough, but they didn't feel like they were spinning a bunch of plates. They felt they were, strategically managing their way out of the project. Not the same as somebody with high expertise, head down and really getting that done. These are really very highly organized arrangers of other
Right.
pieces of information, right? So um, they were fabulous at closeout. Those are the people you wanted at the end of the job. The training and development of others, I look at, these are the people that are the ones that identify capabilities of others, right? They're seeing the ones who have the depth of specialty. They're seeing the ones who have that versatile thought. They're seeing the ones that have enough influence to lead others and can help drive those people, train those people, develop those people in the trajectory that those individual people show, right? They're good identifiers of the individual kind of condition, right? This is who
Right.
this person is, and they help them identify it for themselves, become more self-aware. And then the green line, um, those are the people that are, in my mind, they're the connectors, they're the aligners. They're the ones that are saying, here's where we want to go. Let's gather up everybody in these other categories that really understand this. And I want to empower you to do the work to where we're going to go. Right. So everybody has their path. And probably the biggest thing is everybody seems to think they have to be on the green path. Yet you can be a leader without a title. It's really understanding where you want to run to work every day. What is it that just makes you so excited to get there and get to work? That's the line you need to be in. There's going to be some green in all of those,
Yeah.
but don't shy away from the thing that you are really, really good at, right? And a lot of it is helping people to identify that, right, and realize that the progression paths are not the same. They shouldn't be the same, and it takes the combination of all of these roles to be able to, all of these paths to actually be able to have a functional, scalable, sustainable organization. So very interrelated.
It's interesting that you brought up the punch list. What I was thinking about that crew, and I was thinking about one of our uh, yeah, I want to say they're one of our most profitable clients, and they are absolutely the best at their cash flow turns. So their capital utilization is number one out of our clients, and profitability wise, they're in the top five. So they've they've achieved success on those measures. And one of them is that, and I've been thinking he retired, so he's on his retirement masterpiece, but he still comes to the company parties. But it's this gentleman that's been in charge of their punch list crew for years. So they consolidated their punch list because it was down to people that were highly versatile. They weren't
Yeah.
they weren't necessarily the highest production individuals, that were out there building the project day by day, but they were the ones that could come through there and they could fix a little bit of this scope and a little bit of this scope, and they had like just enough abilities to go talk to the customer and massage this over and go work with this person over here. And because they, I would say one of the keys to their success of getting off projects with customers being very delighted and getting off of them at the right cost was consolidating that punch list
Hmm.
function within the company. And yeah, I was, as you were describing that, I was thinking of the guy because he's fantastic, and I
Yeah.
see him at the Christmas party every year, and he's been working on he tried to retire, and then he got bored and he came back, and then his wife pulled him away more, so So
Uh,
anyhow, yeah, it's but you're right, and there's all of these have value. Unfortunately, I think a lot just in our culture, really. I mean, not just in the construction industry, but our culture as a whole says if I'm not like at this higher point on the
right,
pyramid, then what do I talk about at family dinners or something? And no,
right,
that's just not true.
right,
That is not
right.
true at all.
Right. Yeah, you need to talk about what you're really good at. And so
Yeah,
be good, be okay being good at that.
right.